Beginning September 1st, 2019, Texas drivers diagnosed with a hearing loss or a communication impediment may request that a notice to law enforcement be entered into the electronic database during vehicle registration. This new law, called the Samuel Allen Law, allows persons with a communication impediment the option to disclose the information when registering vehicles and licenses through the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. The diagnosis of the individual will then be placed privately in the Texas Law Enforcement Telecommunication System, or TLETS, in order to alert officers of the conditions prior to approaching a vehicle for a traffic stop. It gives the officer a definite advantage when they know they're going to be approaching somebody with a communication challenge, and to take a different approach. Here are two examples of what an officer might encounter during a traffic stop. In Group 1, think of it as a slower processing speed. We have autism, Asperger's syndrome, mild intellectual disability, Down syndrome, Parkinson's disease, speech and language disorders, and brain injury. Notice some traits of autism in the young man that may appear during a traffic stop. They may be misconstrued as suspicious or aggressive behavior, such as lack of eye contact or too much eye contact, no expression, or seemingly bland behavior, unusual speaking patterns, including direct, sometimes curt, short answers, physical display of coping mechanisms, such as repetitive body movements, crying, holding the ears, yelling, singing, or in the fetal position. Here are some practical suggestions for more effectively communicating with drivers in Group 1. Be factual. Tell them why you pulled them over. Don't ask them. Allow time for them to respond, approximately 20 seconds per question. Speak to them in medium tone levels. Loud, sudden sounds can scare them and cause painful delays in response. State step by step what your intentions are and what you expect from them during the stop. Never assume they know what is to be expected of them. Do not take eye contact or changing the subject or answers that are vague, evasive, or blunt as evidence of non-compliance or a bad attitude. Let them know when the interaction is over and they are free to drive off. Group 2. Think of this as a different language. Deaf and hard of hearing. Notice the traits of deafness or hard of hearing in the young woman that may appear during a traffic stop. They may be misconstrued as suspicious or aggressive behaviors. One common scenario is when a deaf person doesn't respond to verbal directions. There may be an assumption on the part of the officer that the subject is being intentionally non-compliant, when in fact, those commands have simply not been heard. There have also been instances in which a deaf subject reaches into his or her pocket to get a card that says, "I am deaf," and usually has instructions on how to reach an interpreter, but the officer believes that he or she is reaching for a weapon. Here's some practical suggestions for more effectively communicating with drivers in Group 2. Before speaking, get the person's attention by waving your hand or a gentle tap on the shoulder. Face the person while speaking. Go to a well-lit area to converse. Do not cover your mouth or chew gum. Do not assume the person can hear you just because they're wearing a hearing aid. Do not assume the person can hear you just because they have clear speech. Try to minimize background noise. Speak slowly and clearly and incorporate appropriate gestures and facial expressions. Do not over-accentuate mouth movements. Use visual aids when possible. If someone cannot understand you, write a note asking what communication mode is best for their situation. Understand that some deaf people do not read or write English. American Sign Language is its own language with no roots in English, and they may push the notepad away if this is the case. Keep written communication simple. Do not use idioms because they are often misunderstood. If an interpreter is needed, ask if they use ASL or another communication mode. Look directly at the deaf person when speaking, even when an interpreter is present. Talk at your normal speed or slightly slower if you normally speak rapidly. Only one person should speak at a time. Use short sentences and simple words. Do not use family members or children as interpreters. They may lack the vocabulary or the impartiality to interpret effectively. This video was created to familiarize officers with Senate Bill 976, the Samuel Allen Law, in partnership with the Allen family and the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. Officers are reminded to refer to their respective departments' policies along with updates to local, state, and federal laws.